Welcome everybody. Welcome to the gathering. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see how the gathering happens and within ourselves gather attention, collect the sense of being here so that it's known. And reconnecting in this moment. This time, this space. Reconnecting, gathering, welcoming these suggestions to the heart. A sense of settling. Giving this attention, giving this life to life. This is this present moment, this time, this space. In this moment, there's this knowing. In this moment, there's this gathering. In this moment, there's this life. There's this breath, received and released. There's a sense of well-wishing and welcoming and gathering, reconnecting, recollecting. With this life. this gift of life received, this gift of sensitivity, acknowledged, and attention offered. It's like this, a breath. And this moment is like this. Hopes, expectations, and fears are this in this moment. Regrets, memories, fond memories. In this moment, body, the breath, giving all the time and all the space and all the attention, received and released. And the stillness, the opportunity for sensitivity, life itself to be appreciated as it is. And the silence and the space, and the knowing. and the breath. This moment, this breath. An opportunity to be in touch and give attention to the well-wishing of life. The fact that life wishes itself well. Life itself wishes the best for itself. An awareness of that well-wishing. Life is received as a gift, released and attention is given. In the stillness of this moment, the rhythm of this breath in stillness and the softness of this breath the fragility of this breath, preciousness of this life, and wishes itself well. and give time and space for this gathering, time and space for this recollection, time and space for this reflection, reconnection. So if you've got this far, then welcome again. We usually give the first 15 minutes of this for gathering everybody together, gathering ourselves together, recollecting and reconnecting within this moment, and then and talk for maybe half an hour, and then give time for questions, which are usually in the chat function of this strange way of communicating through cameras and microphones and computers and telephones and mobile phones. So, welcome again. And I thought to talk a little bit today about something that's pretty fundamental. That's start of the whole business. And I've talked a little bit about existence and earth, water, fire, and air. Or sometimes earth, fire, water, and air, which are the elements which allow things to stand forth. They're rupa in the technical term. The rupa is those four elements, and then what props it up, or is part of the propping up, or the part of the thing that goes with it is nama. And it's name, sometimes translated as name. And sometimes that's just defined as the other four of the five heaps, the five khandhas, which are Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana. And that's a way of working it. It's the rest. Everything that's not standing forth is what is the other bit of it. But another way of looking at it, and how it maybe discerns it a little bit better and shows the position of vijnana, or consciousness, or separative consciousness, how that works, is to go to the way that it's also, nama is also described, which does start with Vedana. Vedana is it's something that's talked about a lot. And I think the English translation of feeling is sometimes a little bit overblown or can lead to misunderstanding. The other one is sensation, which is interesting because, mental sensations, because you have Vedana at the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Vedana is sometimes that. And it's translated sometimes as feeling, translated sometimes as perception. And it's also interesting that it stands on its own, Paticca Samuppada in the dependent origination later on in the series of 12 or series of 10, however Paticca Samuppada is divided or however it works out. But in the series it has its own place. But it's the way that I tend to work with the Vedana as a concept or as a thing. It's at a very basic level, it's just either a movement towards or away. It's that sort of binary aspect of sense consciousness. The eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind either moves towards or away something. And yes, you can make it more complicated. You can make it quite complicated because you can go to. It's also often described as it's described often as pleasant and unpleasant and neutral. But the way that the Pali works, it's sukha, dukkha, or adukkha dukkha. So it's neither pleasant nor painful. So it's not so much neutral as neither pleasant nor painful. The thing about neither pleasant nor painful, but when that Vedana is known, it's actually sukha, and when it's not known, it's actually dukkha. So it does go back down to two. There are three. And then you have 6 sense bases, so you have 3 times 6, which is 18. And then you have internal and external, and so you have 36, and then you have past, present, and future. So you have 108. So that's the Vedana of also of the 5 khandhas which you identify with, which is part of the possibilities of identifying with. But in terms of just nama, it's just, again, it's either the sensation of going towards or away from something. So there are different aspects of nama, but maybe the one that's most interesting, because you've got, Vedana, you've got phassa, you've got contact, which is the coming together of external sense object, internal sense space, and consciousness. You've got sanya, which is perception, and you've got cetana, which is intention, and manasikara, which is attention, or advertence, what you tend to avert towards. And those are the two that are 2 aspects of nama, which are interesting because that's where the karma, because the cetana is where the karma is made. So the intention and the attention. And this naming of things is a lot to do with the quality of intention and attention we give things. And then that also affects what contact there is and what the Vedana is and what the perception is, what the sanya is. So it's interesting that nama rupa is that things exist and then they're named. And that naming, is almost the importance we give it. how much it stands forth, how much the rupa is present for us is to do with the nama. It's to how we name it. And that's to do with our intention and attention. That intention is what we can actually, what we put on to the situation. So it's what goes out. And that's when you hear the Ajahn Chah talked about the noise outside the meditation room in Hampstead and said, you think that the noise comes in and disturbs you, but in fact, you go out and disturb the noise. And now that's to do with the way that the attention and intention is given to the sound. Yeah? Because then if the intention in the contact with the sound is, I don't want it, the Vedana is unpleasant. The perception of it is, well, these people are, that's coming in to disturb me. And the contact is strong because it tends to, and then the sense of wanting to get rid of it, it's the whole sort of clinging to it. So the intention and the attention you give things, or give is maybe, or you demand of things. you know, is how the whole clinging happens, because you know, that sense of wanting something to be one way or the other is your intention, and the quality of attention you give it, it reinforces it. And it's all that, which is how nama works. You know, in the Paticcasamuppada, vicca paccaya sankhara, ignorance determines habits and formations. Sankhara paccaya vijnana, that's the separation. Vijnana paccaya nama rupa. Because what's conscious is what is then divided into name and form. That's how the division works, and it only works because there's consciousness. So in the other way of describing the Paticcasamuppada, it starts with vijnana propping up as three sheaves of corn will prop each other up. Nama, Rupa, and Vijnana as three sheaves of corn will prop them up and make what used to be called a stoke. I think it's three sheaves of corn propping each other up. And this is how the whole business gets going. And I think the nama, the naming of things, to know how we name things and the importance we give to names, and how that sense of control comes through naming what we choose to name and how we name it. That's where the karma is. You know, that's where we tend to make things more complicated or give things more importance, and it's a useful indication, because you know what we tend to, the way that it works is that when there's the noticing of something, and what we notice is what we're interested in, what we give attention to. And how we give attention is our intention about it. What do we want out of it? So when we take things like, is it for me? Is this for me? That's a big step, really. This is definitely for me. So this is mine. And then of course, because this is for me and this is mine, I must be here. And this is how the sense of personality works. It's for me, it's mine, so there must be a me. And because there must be a me, some things must be for me, so they must be mine. So there must be more of me. And it goes, and this is how the whole thing, accretion of habit and personality and cultural conditioning builds up and gets piled one thing on top of another as a whole heap. And that's the heap that we keep going back to. You know, it's the dung beetle's heap of dung. It's the habits of our cultural conditioning. And then so we then come to something like Buddhism and think, I should get rid of this. And so we make a whole project about me getting rid of this. And that's just adding a head upon a head, isn't it? It's just making it more complicated. And so, you know, the suggestion in the Buddha's teaching is release. And the freshness of attention that knows that it knows and is not making a problem about the cultural conditioning, because that's what it is. It's just this. No, but the attention that we can give things can be wisely attending, yoniso manasikara. And that's a quality of care. It's like, what is this really about? How does this, what's the relationship that is wise? Because vijnana is about relationship. Because it's about splitting. It's about the sense of this being here and that being there. And that's relationship. Because although this is here and that's there, because there's consciousness of it, that's in relationship, so it's also joined. So although there's a split, consciousness splits, it also joins. Because that in the consciousness of something, there's both a splitting and a join. That's the conjuring trick. Because it's a trick. It's a strange conjuring trick, vijnana. There's sense consciousness is a conjuring trick. And that is, the quality of that connection, the quality of that sense of separation is yoniso manasikara, is what we can, if it's wise, the quality of the attention we give. And, when it's not taken personally, then it can be reflected upon. What is the wise way to relate to this? moment, this sense of separation, this relationship that is existing now with whatever is happening now. Now, for simple things, there's a whole formula for for monks, which can be used by anybody, which is for the basics of physical existence, the relationship to the clothing. Only to ward off heat, to ward off cold, to ward off the touch of flies, mosquitoes, wind, burning and creeping things, and for the sake of modesty. This is wisely reflecting, relating to using and relating to clothing. How much do we need? What do we need it for? How do we do it? How do we relate to it so that it's a wise thing? And then food, not for fun, not for pleasure, not for fattening, not for beautification, all these, not to say it couldn't be all of those, but to just put it in perspective, but only for the maintenance and nourishment of this body, for keeping it healthy, for helping with this holy life, thinking thus I will allay hunger without overeating, so that I may continue to live blamelessly and at ease. That way of relating to consuming something, the basic food is this one. But any sort of consumption. And this consumption is this strange thing of, again, taking it personally. Because when you consume something, you take it very personally. Because it's definitely for me, it's mine. And so there must be a self that's involved with it. The way that I talk about food is to really notice that. But then anything that one consumes, and one consumes obviously material stuff, uses it, but also you consume through, just whatever you give attention to is a type of consumption. Consuming the news, consuming the distractions of one's life, because these are for me, they're mine, I'm interpreting them. So there must be a me that's involved. Because it's taken personally, because it's the quality of attention and intention you have around them. And it's the nama you give to the rupa. And then where you live, only to ward off cold, to ward off the touch of flies, mosquitoes, wind, burning and creeping things, and for living in seclusion, so that there's a place where one can practice meditation. And the seclusion that's talking about is the seclusion of this moment. This is the seclusion that to find some joy in and delight in. Do I delight in solitude or not? Is a reflection for those that are really interested in liberation. It's a really powerful reflection. Do I delight in solitude or not? It's not about not being with people or not being with other things, but it's about the delight that is possible in this moment. Because this moment is a delightful experience. If it's really noticed clearly and really given attention to, without expectation, regret. No, it's just that things are then seen exactly as they are. And it's not taken personally. And then medicines which are, necessary, only to ward off painful feeling for the maximum freedom from disease. And the greatest medicine that one can take, of course, is the medicine of the supreme doctor, the supreme physician, the medicine of the Lord Buddha, the teaching and training of the Lord Buddha. for the maximum freedom from disease, dis-ease, the maximum freedom from this strange and complicated self-importance that wants more for me or can't cope, wants to get rid of. A strange compulsion that keeps going on and on and on. And the quality of intention and attention that we give and the importance we give to things. If we can just be with things and say, well, it's like this, the food's there, it's not necessarily for me, it's just it's for everybody. It's not mine. It's just, how do I relate to this so that it's of use for everybody? How is this? What's the way that this breath can be a blessing rather than a curse? This breath. And that's the challenge, or the gift, or the possibility, or however one wants to put it, to use the moment. Because this is what we have. This is where we are. This is this time. This is this space. This is this particular configuration. And it's not supposed to be this way. This is how it is. This is how it's worked out with all the interdependence or interrelationships of all the different complications that have allowed this recording to be here now, this statement to be here now, this breath to be here now. And to is the relationship here wise? Is this relationship kind? Is this the best that we can offer as a gift? Is this life that we've been given be fully received? Because it's a blessing. It's a complete blessing to be alive. To have this sensitivity is so powerful and so precious. No, it is it, and we wish ourselves well. And so to work within this limitation is something we can do. We can work within the limitation, to realize its limitation, to know its limitation. It's like, this is dukkha. Understand that. We don't have to add to it. It ends. Where does it end? What's not hurting now? What's not stressful now? Know that, realize that. And in that, you'll practice the path, because that's what we can do. And that is from assumptions. You're standing on a ground that is in accordance with truth, and your intentions, when you give attention, your cetana and your manasikara are non-harming, non-exploiting, non-indulging. And as you name with those intentions, you're practicing the path of speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and continuity, collectedness, so that you can always be at home and be unshakable with whatever happens. Because it's confusing enough, whatever's happening. And to find a place of stability in that is such a blessing. And that's enough for the moment. If you have questions, please write them in the chat and I'll see whether I can see them. Thank you. I'm just going to try and get the chat up here. Okay. Oh dear. Okay. Yes, is the mind in the body or the body in the mind? That's the question that I don't think has a clear answer. But it's worth actually recognizing that we experience the body in the mind, although we often assume that the mind is in the body, and certainly the two, work together. They're not separate. So, harmful bodily habits can also harm the mind, and harmful mental habits can also harm the body. And it's because they're so interwoven. They're not actually separate. They're different. Maybe they're just different aspects of the same thing. And I think giving attention to the neutral, I find always helpful. So noticing the neutral sensations of the body, the areas where there's not much happening, I find helpful, because that tends to expand and sensitize, to develop, to appreciate the body when it does work well. I also find helpful. So, exercising and stretching and that sort of stuff without a sense of end gaining, I find helpful. I think, things like yoga and Tai Chi and stuff like that can be very helpful. Whatever other exercise actually works for you, but a sense of really being with the body and treating it a bit like a pet. So you've got this a sense of caring for it, because it has its own instincts, and they're not wrong either. It will get hungry, it will get frightened, just bodily experiencing like that, and it'll get hot and it'll get cold, and it'll get, and that can affect how the mind is, as you know. When you're working in a very hot climate, then sometimes you can get more angry, or you get more lethargic if you're not doing anything, whatever. But that's it. When you get very cold, you tend to get tight and frightened. But to train it also, because you know a well-trained pet is a blessing. A well-trained animal is a blessing. So give the body some training as you would an animal. So, and speak to it kindly, but do train it and see how that works. That's one of the things. Whatever else really works for you. Some people, do crochet or knitting. Other people do chanting. Other people have, different ways of working with their bodies and their voices to give it something to do. And then when one does find that one has some success in what one's doing, then really appreciate and stop and appreciate it. Give it a sense of well done. Okay, so that's a little about the mind with the body and the body and the mind. I hope that helps a little bit. Yes, what to do if parents call when I'm listening to the live Dhamma Zoom talk, or get very impatient. But when other people call, I get very impatient, and I really like to have. It's all me and mine, isn't it? It's all to do with me and mine, particularly my parents, because they're my parents. They're definitely, I feel responsible for them, and I feel they should be different because they're mine. But they are the way that they are. They belong to nature. I don't have the same patience when friends send messages and discuss things while I listen to the Dhamma. Don't dwell in aversion, because it doesn't do you any good. It's not a nice apartment. It's not a nice flat. It's not in a nice part of town. You're dwelling in aversion to yourself for having aversion. Then you're making it more complicated. You think you should be different. Just recognize that that's how it is. And hiriotapa, or a sense of knowing that you've done wrong and wanting to correct yourself, and not wanting to go to areas where you know that it's going to damage yourself. People who don't have hiriotapa are being very unkind to themselves. No, and you don't get so upset with somebody who's mentally ill or somebody who's physically ill if they start to lash out or they're in a great deal of pain. And when we recognize that many people who behave badly are actually either mentally or physically and actually in a great deal of pain, even if they don't really know it, then it's easier to feel a sense of kindness for them. But you do have to protect yourself from them. You do have to protect yourself from them, because sometimes they won't know how much they're harming you. So you do have to sometimes set boundaries and say, that's enough. I can't actually cope with more. But one of the reasons that people lash out sometimes at people is that particularly people who are close, is they feel they're safe. So they can behave in ways with people they feel safe with, which they wouldn't behave with people they don't feel safe with. It's like a toddler throwing a tantrum. It feels safe, so it can throw a tantrum with its mother because it knows the mother won't reject it. And sometimes I think some people throw tantrums just to test how safe they can feel with us. and they're just testing how safe they feel, because they don't feel safe. And so they throw a tantrum and hope that they won't be rejected. But you do have to recognize that sometimes you could get damaged, so you have to protect yourself. And people who don't have hiriotapa are damaging themselves. They're harming themselves and harming others, and because that's the way that hiriotapa protects the world. It protects one's own world and protects others. and the guardians of the world. So it's damaging when people don't have hiriyottapa, the sadness around that. And whether you meditate opened eyes or closed eyes, I quite often sit with my eyes open. Actually, it's actually quite a pleasant thing to do. Particularly when the light's changing, evening and morning, it's quite a nice thing. If you're sitting and the light's changing, it's quite a nice thing to do. Walking meditation as the dawn comes up is something that I try to encourage people to do, because they can watch the world becoming enlightened. It's fun, and how that which is not clear becomes clear, and that's why I think there's the thing is called enlightenment, because of that. That sense of clarity comes when one can see things clearly. Oh, it's like this. Of course, what one sees when the light's on is not necessarily the truth, but it's a metaphor. There's all sorts of things are going on, but I think that's the metaphor. Grief. There's a lot of grief, actually. There's a lot of grief that we experience, but sometimes we don't even notice it. The grief of, the experience our own, the grief of this, the faculties changing, the grief of being, of separation from the loved. That's what grief is about. Separation from the loved. Separation from that which one has found supportive and that which one likes. Separation from that is a grief around that. And it's not wrong to grieve. It's not that there's something wrong with grieving. And but when somebody dies and we grieve for them, recognize that we're grieving for ourselves. We're not really, their problems are over. When we grieve for our own sense of separation from the love, we can dedicate merit, because that helps us associate something that's beautiful and good, that's something that is meritorious and skillful, and dedicate that to the other person. So, somebody comes here and they say, I'm coming to dedicate merit for my grandmother. And they say, well, when did they die? They died 25 years ago. So if they've got over the grieving, but the grandmother is still bringing them to the monastery to do beautiful and kind things. And so there's a way of lifting the heart when one grieves for separation, one grieves for lost friends, one grieves for missed opportunities, one grieves for all sorts of things. That's not particularly wrong. It's okay to grieve. I shouldn't be grieving you got to get caught up with that.